What is up, Packers fans? Welcome into Pack-A-Day Live with the one and only Mike Wahle. Of course, you can find him on social media at MikeWahle68. Former all-time great Packers guard. Mike, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Another great weekend, another great win for the Packers, Andy. A lot to talk about. This is a fun game.
This was a very fun game. Tale of two halves. Well, I'm sure dive into that a little bit as well. Aaron Rodgers versus Jordan Love in this game. I'll let you take the floor to begin with. Go any direction that you want. What did you see in this one?
Yeah, I mean, off the cuff, I would just say that I love this game maybe more than any game of the year because it proved that the importance of a left guard can never be understated. When Isaac Seumalo was in the game in the first half of Pittsburgh, they got to run their jumbo package. They averaged like 8 yards a carry, and we're up 16-7, giving our guys some real problems. When he hurt his pec and they had to put Anderson at left guard, they could no longer run their jumbo package in the second half. We completely feasted on their from a pass rush standpoint. They couldn't run the football. So I thought that was, it went completely unnoticed on TV, but I thought that was the single most important factor in the game, to be quite honest. Just the difference in the halves is really a question of they just don't, the Pittsburgh Steelers run a very specific kind of personnel package to move the football and create opportunities for their offense. And when you took that away, they had no answers. So it was, there's a lot of stories about Jordan Love and how well he did with his, I think it was 20 completions. Tucker Kraft on National Tight End Day was absolutely awesome to watch. But like, if you really want to get down into what caused the dramatic shift in the second half, like that was it.
It is crazy how sometimes those injuries can swing something so dramatically, just having to move a player around here or there. And it just goes to show you, too, the value of depth in the NFL. And if you have it, it can be very important. And if you don't, it can sidetrack you very, very quickly. And that was certainly the case with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Speaking of the offensive line, Jonathan here posts, I like the passing lanes for Jordan Love. It did feel like for the offensive line in this game for the Packers, it felt like it was the tale of two lines, as we've kind of talked about in the past. It felt like he had the pass protection was good, didn't take a single sack all day long, but the run blocking continued to be a bit of an issue. What did you see up front from the offensive line?
Well, I love that Sean Ryan got some action this week. I thought it was well deserved. I just did my review show, and you can demonstrate, play in and play out how he's doing a good job of getting in the position to move humans off the line of scrimmage. I think, look, Jordan Love does such a good time of throwing on schedule, and just this game, there's been some games where he's waiting, or maybe taking waiting for the big play instead of taking the obvious one. In this game, he took the obvious one more often than not. His back foot hit the ground. He could throw rhythm, whether it was the out, whether it was the swing. The one to Christian Watson in particular was fantastic. The dig to Romeo Doubs early in the first half off the play action where he doesn't take a hitch. Those are amazing throws, and those are just a kind of real show of quality by him. That makes it easier for the offensive line. I think, for the entire year, though, if you look at this offensive line, they've done a great job in pass protection more often than not. I mean, the problem is they don't do a great job of moving humans off the spot. Now, this was a difficult game because the Pittsburgh Steelers are a tough football team, but maybe even more than that, like Cam Hayward's a Hall of Famer. And Aaron Banks, like, this is not a dig on anybody. Like, Cam Hayward's better than Aaron Banks.
Yep.
So if you're going to let him block one-on-one for the entire game, like, he's going to give you problems. Or he's better than Elton Jenkins. And if he goes to nose and you're trying to run outside zone or middle zone against Elton Jenkins, you're going to get knocked 2 yards in the backfield because he is one of the best defensive tackles in our generation. That nobody really talks about because he doesn't have a ton of sacks. But if you want to talk about a guy that, like, I don't want to play against, I don't want to play against that guy. He is an absolute problem. And this is a good defensive football team against the run. I thought that we underperformed, but, we do have to figure that out, Andy, because, Josh Jacobs is too good a football player to have, 33 on 13 carries. But if Jordan Love's going to play like that, we're going to win a lot of football games in the playoffs.
What did you make of the splits between Emmanuel Wilson and Josh Jacobs, where Wilson just found a little bit more success? Jacobs had a little bit of a tougher time. Just felt like happenstance to me, but I'll let you take the floor on that one.
Yeah, completely. I thought it was happenstance. Like, listen, he had the big the bounce out the backside for off the right for, like, most of his yard, a big chunk of his yards. I'm talking about Wilson. Wilson came in and had some really good plays, right? He's a good football player, and we're lucky to have him. But it just felt like they weren't on the right. Every time they went, okay, we're going to run downhill into the A gaps. You're just going like, that's clearly not going to work against this team. I mean, we're not moving that double off the spot off initial contact. We can't sustain the block against the one-on-one of the D tackle. It's a really tough ask. This was also one of those games where if you looked at some of the stretch stuff or the outside middle zone stuff, where they're one block away from making it. Luke Musgrave trips on a play, and if he doesn't trip on that play, Josh Jacobs is out the gate for at least 30. I mean, there's plays like, and that happens every game, I suppose, but maybe it was more prominent because his total was so bad this week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't chalk it up to anything other than, right play, right time.
What do you make? I know a lot of fans are frustrated with some of the either the second and long, run plays, or the third and shorts, runs out a shotgun. Some of those that felt maybe, I don't know if you want to call it predictable, but just they didn't have a lot of success running out a shotgun and up the middle in this game, yet they continue to kind of call some of those plays. Just thoughts on the general idea to continue to call some of those, and just why you kind of went over the lack of success with some of the players that Pittsburgh has up front, but why continue to call those in those situations?
That's a great question. I suppose, as opposed to, like, let's take the it was one of the left. There was a bubble to the left. They're running like middle zone. I think it was like I think it was maybe a 2nd and 6 play, and Hayward blows Jenkins up in the backfield, so he has to cut back, and I think TJ Watt comes in and makes a play on the backside or something like that. But it doesn't really matter. The point is there's wrinkles that you can put into that play. Like, you could block the left guard down and pull Jenkins around for the backer. Like, there's things that you can do within the game that keep the concept the same for the running back, but it just changes one block, maybe gives you better angles. And so, like, what they're not going to just say summarily, like, we're not running zone anymore. Like, that's not going to happen. We're not going to run duo anymore because we can't move. Like, they have to find solutions. But usually in this situation, when you can't find that solution, because again, I don't want to minimize, Cam Hayward is one of the best defensive tackles you're ever going to watch. And he beat every time he had a one-on-one block, like, not literally every time, but almost every time, he won. And so if that's going to be the case, then you have to pin and pull. You have to do some different things to get him out of the play. Otherwise, he's just going to wreck the game. And that's the surprising part. It's not that they're running the football. It's not that they're running the football out of the gun. It's that knowing that he's not a penetrating player, and knowing that you could probably have a better chance of blocking down or getting some doubles and just continuing to, like, single block and do that kind of stuff. That's where I go, I don't know if it makes sense. The other part of that is, you want to put, like, Tucker Kraft, for example, in a wider split, because there's some things you want to do with him in the passing game, or there's areas that you want to put him. So, like, TJ Watt maybe has to think about him as far as his get off. But when you do that on a 3rd and 2, and then he can't cut off TJ Watt because he's a yard off the tackle, then you're like, it feels cute to the fan, but I'm sure in the mind of the offensive coordinator, head coach, he's like, no, we have to do this for a specific reason. And we saw it even on the return motion from Tucker Kraft, who went into the backfield and came back down, and they were just really running like split flow. It's just a different look. They're doing that because TJ Watt's in a left-handed stance. He's going to take his outside step. He's in a sprinter stance to go straight up the field. So it's an easy cutoff because he thinks it's a pass. And, Zach Tom's in a specific stance and all this kind of stuff. So they're doing a lot of window dressing. Is it for me? Not necessarily, but I understand the concept.
All right, fair enough. No, I totally agree too. I think they just got to figure out a way to make some of those inside run plays just work a little bit more effectively. And that's kind of what we've been talking about all season when it comes to run blocking, especially on the inside there. Justin says the O-line needs to watch how the Colts run block. Good gravy. They are atrocious, and the Colts have wide open gaps. I'm sure you've had the opportunity to watch some of the Colts, but their run stuff, Mike, is just outstanding.
Yeah, they're the creme de la creme right now. I mean, obviously Quentin Nelson's one of the better guys in the league, but, like, you watch their center's, I don't even know who he is. I mean, he's unbelievable though. He's been
former Badger, Taylor Bartolone.
Yeah, the kid's playing his ass off, man. He's unbelievable. I mean, he's playing unbelievable right now. And if you've got those guys, I've always say this, right? Like, if you can just tie on the edges in the run game, and you have 2 guys who can win in the middle, like, you're going to win so much, because it's really the person closest to the football is the one that's going to disrupt the majority of your plays, unless they're outside tosses. So if you can take the person closest to the football and remove him from the line of scrimmage, on a consistent basis, like you're going to win a lot of reps. And the problem is like we're going the wrong direction. Yesterday we were going the wrong direction half the time, and that just becomes the seminal issue. And we go back to it. We could go play by play, and you're going to go, if we really sit there, Andy, and you just, if they're in meetings today, they're going to sit with their coach, and at some point they're going to stop the tape and go, I can't believe I took that footwork, but they continue to do it, and that's where this gets difficult. And within all that, the context, we have to realize, like, we don't know how much time they spend on it. We don't know how much they really care because they're winning all these football games and Jordan Love's doing some great stuff. Like, how much of a magnifying glass are they putting on that? I would imagine it's a lot, but the results don't speak to that.
Jake had a question of, I'm not saying Jacobs isn't a good back, but do you feel his running style doesn't fit the zone blocking scheme? I think maybe that's a little bit of an oversimplification, but it did feel like there was some stuff maybe that they did with Aaron Jones that maybe they haven't done quite as much with Josh Jacobs. Do different running backs, you obviously had Amon Green, do different running backs like different things, different styles, different play calls than maybe others? And do you feel like Jacobs and his running style is molding well with what the Green Bay Packers want to do by running the football?
Well, again, go back to Josh Jacobs' first year here, and Aaron Jones had just left, and they are completely different runners.
Yep.
But Josh Jacobs was able to find success because he is a all-pro phenomenal running back, and he just makes people miss. The problem is what they're doing right now. Like, nobody on the planet, you talk about the kid from Atlanta, you talk about Jahmyr Gibbs, like the Jonathan Taylor. If you are being handed off the ball and your landmark is the inside of the tackle or the outside of the guard, and the guard is 2 yards in the backfield when you get the handoff, you're not going to have a successful play. There's just nothing to be done. And I think some of the times the problem is you're not, whether it's because you don't have the double teams in the right spot, whether you're not down blocking, whatever that reason is, you're not winning or even tying those blocks. And anytime a running back has to do something that requires him to change direction in the backfield, more often than not, that's exactly what that's what I'm teaching defenders to do. Make sure the running back has to go change direction in the backfield. If he does that, you're going to win 99% of the time, right? So I don't think it's a style thing. I think it's just quite simply like, if you don't get that block, no one's going to be successful.
The Packers have built this offensive line into, again, a good pass protecting offensive line. Again, the run blocking isn't there. We know, Mike, it's really difficult to find good offensive linemen in the NFL. It's really hard to find good ones that are good at everything, both run blocking and in pass pro. It seems like the Packers have had almost the philosophy of, like, we're going to find the really good pass blocking offensive linemen. We're going to set up our offensive line that way, and then we'll figure out the run game in different ways outside of that, or maybe try to get them better at run blocking as time goes on. Is that, do you feel like that's the case? And if so, is that an okay philosophy to have? Or I guess, how would you build it knowing that these really good offensive linemen that are good at everything are very difficult to find?
Well, the most expensive and important player in your team is the quarterback. So I would imagine that the owner or the head coach is going, well, we need to protect the quarterback at all costs. So they're going to prioritize. I assume they're just going to prioritize. If they have to prioritize something, they're probably going to prioritize pass protection. Which, you can rationalize, certainly. I would, back in the day, you'd say, well, if we have a group that everybody fears, then pass protection gets a lot easier, because you only have to really pass protect, let's say 12 times a game, like those 3rd and 8 plays, those 2nd and 12 plays. Anytime you're 3rd and 6, 2nd and 6, 2nd and 7, where it's a run pass option because you have a good offensive line, that totally, look, just going back to our line with Brett, with Amon, with Will Henderson, with Bubba, like, we were such a good – we had 3 backs averaging over 5 yards a carry back when you had a stacked box.
Yep.
If the other team thinks you're going to run the ball on any down and distance, pass blocking turns into something that's not that difficult. You have all your play action, all your waggles, all your keepers. There's so much you can do off of that because of the threat of the run. What happens now is – and you see this not necessarily with the Packers, maybe more so with some other teams. You could start calling out. It's like, you look the Texans for years. Like, if you don't have the threat of the run and you're just going to drop back and gun, that's impossible for anybody to be successful. I don't care what college you went to, how big you are. Like, you're not going to have success if you just drop back all the time and have to take it in the face, 60 reps a game. So for me, it's about finding the mentality that wants to be that downhill aggressive player, and then getting the right coaching staff in place to teach them the right techniques for, learning how to be an attacking player in pass pro, learning how to be an aggressive player in pass protection, using your technique, letting that kind of be the way that you demonstrate your aggression and emotion for this game, and then putting those guys in position to be successful by utilizing that aggression and turning it on its head, so you have more opportunities for 7-step drop, play action pass throws, waggles, keepers, etc. So keeping that, moving that quarterback off the spot to keep him in a position where the defenders don't know where to go. There's a bunch of different philosophies out there in the NFL right now, and a lot of it's based off what they do in college. But I think if you just look at the teams that you are really fun to watch, everything's grounded on having a strong running game at the start.
Are you surprised then? Because the Packers have not had that foundational running game really so far this season, and yet they've scored 27 points in at least every game, save for the Cleveland Browns game when they were really beat up on the offensive line, 35 against Pittsburgh, 40 against Dallas. Are you surprised they've been as successful as they've been on offense despite not having that high-level running game?
I think I was thinking about this last night, because you watch every game, and I think Matt LaFleur's he's so creative in his play calling. They have tons of weapons. Jordan Love's just playing lights out right now. But I was trying to figure out, are they stealing extra series? Because we're not getting a lot of turnovers, but it feels like the amount, and maybe it's just because our defense is playing so well, but the amount of series that we have in the game, and I wanted to go back and look, let's say the standard for a half is you get, 8 series a half, 16, let's say high end 16 a game. How many series are these guys getting a week? And is that why? Are we just playing the percentages? Because there seems to be a lot of series where we don't do anything. We only had I think we had 7 or 10 points in the first half. That's not not a great amount. But then they just rip off in the second half, and it's well, why did that happen? Well, they had the turnover. They start having some different things going on where it's 3 and out. The Pittsburgh Steelers are constantly in 3rd and 15. They're not moving the ball at all. We had to have stolen some series in the second half. And then I think with a great play caller and a great quarterback, both of which we have, I think over time you figure out NFL defenses regardless, and they're figuring out these places to attack. I mean, the Tucker Kraft stuff last night, you watch the Tucker Kraft stuff. If Tucker Kraft has 131 of 143 yards after the catch, it's that. First of all, he's amazing, not taking anything away from him. But if that's the case, then Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love, game plan and execution, it couldn't be any higher, because that means he's getting balls on time, in the right spot, wide ass open, with nobody in front of him.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing if you can get it. Going back to their possessions. So they started with a 3-and-out punt. Then they had the 6-play, 67-yard touchdown drive. Then they had the drive with the missed field goal, a 3-and-out punt, a 3-and-out punt, and a missed field goal to end the first half. That was their first half. In the second half, it was touchdown, 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 field goal, and then basically the kneel down at the end of the game. They had 4 plays, but it was really just running out the clock at the end. So that's how the play sequencing went. Just to reiterate how great Green Bay has been in the second half as of late, Jacob Morley of the Pack-A-Day podcast, of course, talked about, or he tweeted out, this has been the Packers' second half drives since the Dallas Cowboys game. So these are just drives in the second half. Touchdown, 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 field goal, touchdown, touchdown, field goal, kneel downs, punt, touchdown, touchdown, punt, touchdown, kneel downs, touchdown, 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 field goal, kneel downs. That's been their drives in the second half since the Dallas game. They've basically been nuclear in the second half of these games and just unstoppable. Yet in the last 3 first halves, they average only 7.7 points per game in the first half. I don't know how to make heads or tails of that, Mike. I don't know how they can be almost inept at times in the first half and then just go completely nuclear in the second half.
I think to me, it all goes back to just the lack of a running game, because it's hard to find. It feels like, and this happens with I can't speak for the coaching staff, but this does happen on coaching staffs where they're every week they get into the Wednesday meeting, we are going to run the football this week. Like, we're going to commit to the run this week. And then he's going along, and then he looks at the play sheet on the second half, and he's like, we're not committing to the run anymore. Like, I got way too many good plays. You know what I mean? Like, we can get Tucker Kraft the ball. Like, at one point, they just fed him the ball like 3 or 4 times in a row, which you never see with a tight end, right? But they're just finding ways to get people wide open. And I think what you're seeing too is because they have the ability, especially with Christian Watson coming back and making his plays.
Yes.
They have the ability to make big plays with so many different players, whether it's Tucker after the catch, whether it's Josh Jacobs in the backfield, whether it's Christian Watson on the deep ball, Matthew Golden with the ball in his hands anywhere on the field, right? Romeo Doubs coming off those little breaks. They have so many weapons that it's like, go back to the sideline if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Okay, so Tucker Kraft catches a flat, makes 4 guys, breaks their tackles and runs for 40 yards, whatever it is, right? So they go back to this sideline like, shoot, we gotta start accounting for him now. Now Christian Watson gets behind the safety and the guy throws up not the best ball in the world, but he still comes down. You know what I mean? For a 45-yard gain or whatever. It's like, Christ. Now what do we got to do? Got to back the safeties up again. So every time they come off the field, it's like it's something new with this team. And I think that's why they're scoring so much despite not being it. Because every team's going into the game be like, hey, what's the number one thing we got to do with the Packers? Stop Josh Jacobs. And they do. But when they do that, single safety, you got to play man, with all this stuff, like I just think they have too many answers. It's one of those, we don't have this isn't Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on this field, or, maybe the CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Like, we don't maybe have that combination of receivers, but we've got so many dudes that can do something very specific really, really well. Got the deep ball, got the yards after contact, got the guys coming in and out of the breaks, got the guy with the ball in their hand anywhere on the field. Like, you've got a guy for everything. And I think Matt LaFleur just does a really good job, and Jordan Love does a really good job of going like, okay, they're doing this, we'll just take this guy. And by the second half, it just feels like they're figuring everything out really fast.
It does feel like, to your point, why I was smiling so much while you were saying it, that every week they go into it being like, this is the week we're going to run the ball. We worked on it all week. We talked about it all week. This is the week we're going to get the run game going. We're going to stay dedicated to it. And it just falls flat and it's not working. I almost think they need to flip the script a little bit and almost just go with a lot of their good pass stuff early in the game and then come back to the run after they're so scared of your passing attack. There's no perfect solution to it, but it does just feel like they have so many awesome solutions in the passing game. And it just feels like every single time they try to get the run game going, it just hasn't worked the way that they wanted it to. I would love for it just to work. That would be nice too, but it just hasn't exactly worked that way.
They just don't have in my opinion, they don't have the personnel inside to run what they want to run. Let me say that differently, because I actually do think they have I think Elgton Jenkins is not playing. I really have always liked Elgton Jenkins. I think he's a really good player. I don't think at center he's playing as well as he played at guard. And I don't know if the stats back me up on that, but my eye says he's not playing as well.
I'm in the same boat. I personally, and we can disagree on this one. Obviously, I don't think it's just a guard center thing. I just don't think he's playing good football right now, but maybe it is a guard center thing, but no, I'm totally with, it's for whatever reason, he seems to be struggling more than normal.
Yeah, that's fair. I know the difficulty of like having to snap that sequence is different. It hits
for sure.
Your footwork different, everything. So, and we just don't know because we haven't seen him play guard all
Good
year.
Point.
But I don't disagree with you necessarily. I just don't. When I watch them, and I just highlighted it on the show I just finished up. It's like Sean Ryan, for whatever you think about him, like his footwork's actually pretty good. And because his footwork's pretty good, more often than not, he moves people. He does a good job. He gets his hips in, and like they're doing a good job with their doubles. He does a commendable job. Does he make some mistakes? Maybe there's some points where they're going to different backers. Like maybe that's why they are mad at him, because we talked about it last week. But whether it's Aaron Banks, whether it's Elgton Jenkins, whether it's Jordan Morgan, they're just not moving humans off the spot. And I'm going to give Aaron Banks a pass this week because he was outmatched by a Hall of Fame player, but I don't need to give him a pass, but you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
But just generally, I don't think they're getting the job done on the interior of the offensive line like they expected to. And it makes it impossible to call plays that you're like, I feel really good about this? Because you would think that they would just start running the GT counters, the 2-man powers with Tucker Craft. You'd think they start running some of this stuff just so they could get some movement and some down blocks, or start running some of the crack. I mean, they're running so much tight bunch. It's like run some crack toss. You just think they do something like that, but maybe that's not what the running backs like. Like, we don't know, but it does feel like to your point, every week it's like you might as well just start banging your head against your desk because it's not working.
We got some philosophical questions here, some some ideas that people want to float by you. So Alex wants to know if you have a best starting 5 along the offensive line, of how you would line them up.
Oh, I think I said this like 8 months ago. Yeah, it's Rasheed Walker, Elgin Jenkins. Well, see, now I don't know, because I think Sean Ryan's playing better. I think Sean Ryan has been the best guard on the team. I don't know about whether he's going to the right point. I'm just talking about the way that he goes about his business. I like better than everybody else.
Yep.
So I think Sean Ryan being at right guard is probably the thing. I would, Elgin Jenkins is he's not playing good at center. So is there somebody else? Is it Monk? Is it moving Sean Ryan to center and putting Aaron Banks at right guard, putting Elgin back at left? Does he help? To your point, that might not work. I think right now it would be stupid to experiment because they're on a winning streak. But like, if you took 2 series in practice and you're like, all right, guys, I know this sounds crazy, but we're going to do some different shit today, right? You're coming in at center. Elgin, we're moving you over here because you still need to be on the field, and we'll see how this plays out. Like, I think it's worth a try, like, to put, and then just keep working on it, because right now it doesn't feel right. And with Jenkins in particular, there's so many plays where, and he's always been kind of an upright player. Like, he's never really been gut drop, get low, leverage, low hips, push out.
Yep.
He's never been that guy, but he's been so strong and athletic that he kind of gets away with it. And right now, it doesn't feel like he's getting away with it. And so if you put him back in a 3-point stance without the ball, can he get away with it again? That would be the question you'd have to answer before I could give you a real starting 5. But right now, it would just be make sure Sean Ryan stays in the game. If you got to if you got to put the cards on his wrist or something, or the plays on his wrist, if that's what's bothering you guys, like, I don't know. But for me, it's just such a no-brainer.
The next one was from Justin. Do you feel like they should utilize RPO a little bit more?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you saw they did it once or twice, but he's never going to pull it and keep it. And then if he pulls it and keep it, is he going to run with an actual pass option? Like, is he going to go high school? How's that going to look? Because there are some plays where it's potentially there. Look, after you pay the quarterback, you usually stop running the RPO stuff as much. And it's just a reality of the NFL. If you're making $50 million a year, they don't want you to take shots, unnecessary shots. And I totally agree with that. I don't know that the RPO doesn't really solve your problem. The RPO is putting a Band-Aid on an issue, right? Like, the RPO is just basically saying, you guys can't block these 6 players, so we'll just add another runner. What we really want to do is learn how to block the 6 players when you have a 6-man box, or whatever. So, like, yes, you can do it to gain a couple other extra yards. Is it worth their injury risk? I kind of tend to say yes, but then he gets hurt and I'm wrong. But like, if I'm coach, I probably throw a couple in. But it's really more about executing against the box that's already there and is going to continue to be there.
Minnow says he'd like to see what under center looks like once in a while. I'm assuming he means from a run game standpoint. Do you think there's an opportunity to do a little bit more under center work in this offense?
Well, I think they do it. And I think it's the best way for them to run. No question about it. And I've been told that Josh Jacobs likes to run from guns. So fair enough. You do what Josh likes, but excuse me. I think that when you run under center, it balances out your box. It gives you a little bit of a clearer picture. It helps you with the safety rotation a little bit. It makes the calls easier for the linemen. One thing you do notice with this team is, like, and it happened at least twice in this game, where you've got the play side guard going to, like, the insert safety, and you've got the backside guard going to the will, and no one's going to block Patrick Queen, who happens to be their best linebacker. Like, they don't even have a guy for him. So they're kind of screwing up the count. So I think what happens when you go under center and it's balanced, the center can make a call and everybody can live with it. I love under center because it lends to the under center play action stuff, which I think Jordan Love's really good at. He showed it this week again. So I don't know that they're not running it enough. I just think they have to execute on everything, under the sun right now.
No, it's totally fair. And then Jake asked, in hindsight, is the organization doing more harm now to Morgan by playing him at right guard for experience while the majority of his camp was at left tackle? I think maybe the larger overarching question here is, are they maybe doing him more harm by moving him around to a bunch of different spots and maybe focusing him in a little bit more on one position?
I don't know that it. That's a good. Listen, usually back in the day when you were a young tackle, they would put you at guard to teach you how to be physical and play with pad level. And then the next year they would move you out. They did that with Jonathan Ogden. They did that with Laremy Tunzel. They've done that with, a lot of guys. Andrew
Whitworth,
left tackle for the Rams.
Whitworth
did that. A ton of guys did that, and it's very, very helpful. So those guys are franchise guys, but I think it's a good thing to be able to play inside or outside. I think it helps with your physicality. You can see with Jordan Morgan in particular, like the lack of physicality is what's really hurting him. So I think if he ends up playing tackle in the future, I think this only helps him because it forces it. You sink or swim. You either play physical or you're not going to play anymore, which I think is kind of what we saw over the last 2 weeks.
Sure.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the next couple of weeks if he kind of gets in line and starts playing a more physical brand of football. But I think over the long term, no, I don't think it hurts. I think the people that it hurts are the running back right now, quite frankly.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. Either way, it feels like that's kind of the big thing, especially offensively, that needs to just get a little bit more of a tweak and an upgrade is the run blocking overall. But to our conversation from earlier, they're still putting up 27 almost every single week, including 35 this week against Pittsburgh. It's a very potent offense. It's one that defenses are not super excited to go against, and just feels like that one extra little thing. If they can get that run game going just a little bit more efficiently, it's just game over for the rest of the league if they can get that. But hopefully they get there. Mike, you and I have a lot more to discuss for tomorrow's show on the podcast, which we're going to record here momentarily. Any final thoughts on the live show before we get out of here?
Carrington Valentine coming in. We talked about it last week, how they were going to do that. The fact that he got the start, and then, obviously never a perfect game, but I thought he played really well. He just brings a physical presence to, like, the camera's always on him. You like the way he approaches the game. You like the vibe that he has on the defense. He seems to have a real positive effect on what they're trying to accomplish. So that was really nice to see. And then having Devontae Wyatt back, I thought was big too. He just kind of, you don't notice until he comes back. You kind of didn't know what you were missing, but there was a couple of plays he's chasing down the ball and then just knocking the hell out of somebody. And you're like, all right, yeah, got a couple more there. Love it.
And you can tell he's still not fully 100%. And once hopefully he is, he can even make more of an impact inside. I think he was only in the 30s in his snap count as well in this game, which again, you probably play him a little bit more if he's fully healthy. So hopefully he came out of this one unscathed and can even up that snap count and up the impact in this next game against Carolina, which we will talk about on the podcast for tomorrow as well. So make sure to check that out. Mike and I will be on the full podcast for tomorrow morning. You of course can follow Mike at MikeWall68. Shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring today's show. $100 or up to $100, 100% match over on Sleeper right now. Terms and conditions apply. You can check that out over on Sleeper, available in over 25 states. Make sure you utilize code PACKADAY to get that promotion. Again, 100% match up to $100 by utilizing code PACKADAY. For Mike and I, we will see you guys tomorrow morning on the Pack-A-Day podcast tomorrow. But until next time, and as always, go Pack, go.